The first duty of government is to protect our rights.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government in what we were tasked to do.
If you really want to doge, this is how you doge. You don't vote for bad legislation that expands government. Thank you.
Now we're talking about taxpayer money, and we're talking about accountability. It is their money. This isn't a government program we're actually spending on. We're actually giving it back to the people of Idaho.
There's other options for making our ballots more secure, such as using watermarks or putting holograms on the ballots.
And I think that that's what we need to look at more, is trying to get back to what we used to be, where our churches and our families took care of each other instead of relying on the state.
I asked the question rhetorically, if we gave them another $1 billion, they wouldn't be happy. Well, we've given them $2 more billion, and it's not enough.
We need to start making Idaho first. We need to start making America first.
Other states like Texas and Florida have enacted similar laws to address illegal immigration, both locally and in their communities. And Idaho has the right to protect itself when the federal government has failed to do that.
COVID presented us with quite the enigma. We didn't really know what it was or what to do, but that is no excuse to violate the rights of the citizens of the state of Idaho.
I say vote no on this and let the teachers teach and quit bringing in coaches to teach the teachers to teach, and let's get education going again in Idaho.
I don't know what's coming after this current administration for the feds, and we need this law because our federal laws on immigration have failed.
Mr. President, I think it's incumbent upon us to allow parents to use their hard-earned dollars to provide what's best for their children.
If I was looking at a business and I was looking at these figures, there would be heads rolling because this is unsustainable.
My concern is that the resilience of Idahoans who believe in self-reliance and self-responsibility will be eroded.
We need to be protecting our First Amendment rights, not inventing ways to slowly chip away at them.
The First Amendment and our freedom of religion, freedom of speech are our first liberties. They are so important. We don't have the rest without them.
Yeah, watch it.
Come on, guys.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Idaho Signal. It's February 17, 2026, and the House is already trucking through some bills here. We're going to be hearing here from Representative Dale Hawkins on House Bill 516. This is a cleanup bill. Let's dip in.
This term, even though I know it's a laughable thing to say that this is a simple bill. We passed this bill last year, and there's a lesson here for me. Don't ever get in a hurry with your bills toward the end of session. What happened was I had House Bill 352, which started as 295. It was one bill, had two different parts to it. I split it in half. And at one time, this bill contained information that was telling us that we could no longer teach gender identity or sexual orientation to K through third grade. I got so many phone calls that in the interim of splitting the bills in half, we changed the bill to K through 12th grade. So what happened is a line got left in the bill that was pertaining to K through third grade. And that line reads, or in a manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state statute. So that was for when this stopped at third grade. This goes K through 12. This line was left in the bill by accident. My fault, nobody else's. There's other people who've tried to take the blame. It's my fault, I should have caught it. We caught it after the session. We just decided we'd deal with it this year. I'll just go through some of the things that we had in committee when we brought this up. I thought it would be pretty simple, but there was a lot of reference to different things trying to re-argue the body of the bill, which is the banning of instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation. We are not here to re-debate that. That's already been put into law. What we are here today to do is to remove this line that has brought confusion because it didn't belong in the bill in the first place. There's been some argument that it ties to some other bills. Do I need permission to refer to other legislation?
Unanimous consent has been requested. Is there objection?
Yeah.
Hearing none.
I mean, it's already in statute, but we have a bill that is an opt-in bill. This bill has nothing to do with the opt-in bill. This bill right now before you today is to remove a line that was left in here by me accidentally. And it brings confusion to the existing statute that says you cannot instruct in public education the subject of gender identity or sexual orientation. And with that, I appreciate our run at all these beautiful green lights today. Thank you.
Further motions, further debate on the motion. Gentleman from 19.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To debate the bill.
Gentleman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Friends, this section of code that we are about to amend is the Parental Rights in Education Law. And specifically what this bill would do is remove an enumerated right in that bill. It would take away a right that we've already written in the law. And I don't like to take away rights from parents, but that's actually not why I am a no vote on this bill. Those of us who are parents currently have the right to opt our children into age and developmentally appropriate instruction on a number of topics outlined in 33-1609 sub 2. And this section of code was just added 8 months ago. And it was the codified version of House Bill 239. This, like the good gentleman said, the sex ed opt-in bill. And I know, and I've heard this repeatedly throughout the process, that this bill has nothing to do with that. You don't have to look at that bill, and that's true. You don't. The legislature can do whatever we want. But people who wear red name tags and have to implement and enforce the law, they absolutely do have to look at everything that is relevant to enforcing the law. And when you look, it's reasonable to conclude that this bill, if we pass it, is going to be an unforced error of epic proportions. Let me try to explain by using—
It's all fake news.
Okay? Currently, public schools in Idaho can provide instruction on topics that are listed in 33-1609 sub 2 if they get written permission and the instruction is age and developmentally appropriate, as outlined in this section of code currently. If this bill passes and we remove the age and developmentally appropriate provision from this section of code, all we are left with in 33-6001 sub 5 is language that reads in pertinent part, a public school shall prohibit classroom instruction on gender identity. I want to say that one more time. If we pass this bill, the only language left in 33-6001 sub 5 is this: a public school shall prohibit classroom instruction on gender identity. Now, given my experience wearing a red name tag, I am pretty sure that this is going to take away a parent's right to opt their child into instruction on the U.S. Supreme Court case Little v. Hecox. We are all familiar with this case. It is a case that originated in this building. The state was sued by an athlete at Boise State, a trans athlete at Boise State. It was just argued last month, and the decision is pending, okay? Now, I know what some of you are thinking, because I hear this all the time. Oh, he's getting into the weeds. He's being dramatic. That's not true. That's a straw man, okay? The good news is you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to listen to me at all. Because in the Hecox case, on August 14th, 2024, the good lady from 33 submitted an amicus brief to the court. And in that brief, she writes on page 4, 5, 12, and 13 what the concept of gender identity is. And the reason she had to do that is you can't understand Hecox without having some minimal level of understanding about the concept of gender identity. So I think and I hope someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we are about to inadvertently ban instruction on little vehicox, because I don't think we understand how prevalent the idea of gender identity is in everyday life. I am certain this bill is going to pass, but not because I'm voting yes.
Further debate on the motion? Hearing none, would the gentleman from 2 care to close the debate? Debate is closed. Question is, shall House Bill 516 pass the House? Clerk will unlock machine and members will cast their votes.
All right, there you have it, folks. House Bill 516, as explained by Dale Hawkins and tried to be conflated by with different meanings by the Democrat Matthias, passes the House there. It did include, looks like it did include one extra Republican to go along with the Democrats there.
No correction in title.
The next bill on the docket here, we might be able to stick around for, probably not. It's about unmanned aircraft, drones, hopefully. I think this is the next one. Drones flying over correctional facilities. So we'll pay attention to what's going on in the House for you. They're also up over in the Senate as well, and there might be some interesting bills that we want to dip in over there as well. So we will be dipping in and out. We've got some clips from committees for you today, and we will try and keep you up to speed. We do want to hear from you too, so please send us your voicemail. We're getting into that time of year now where you're going to be going back and forth from the House to the Senate, in committee, out of committee. We want to hear your thoughts. We're going to have a lot of people needing to show up to testify for committees and the like. So keep track of. Our producer does a great job of keeping you up to speed with the ticker down below. So keep your eyes there as well, and send us your messages, and we will play them on the air. Okay, I guess just to kind of give you a heads up on what we're looking for over in the Senate. Senator Lenny has Senate Bill 1236, which will repeal the Idaho Women's Commission. There's also one of the E-Verify acts that we had Michael Angeletta on from Secure Idaho yesterday. If you did not get a chance to see yesterday's episode, I highly, highly encourage you to go back and watch yesterday. I know yesterday was a holiday, so many of you might have been home and doing other things because you had your kids at home from school and the like. But I do highly recommend going back and watching yesterday's episode on the immigration. Some of the things that were unveiled yesterday were truly astounding, and so we had the great Michael Angeletta on to talk through some of that stuff. It was really great. But that being said, there's an E-Verify Act. They're calling it the weaker of the two, which I agree with. That's going to be up for a vote in the Senate. So we'll see how the Senate treats that. Okay, let's get into some of the stuff that happened. Let's see, this morning. Are we starting with the Cities Act here? Is that the first deal? He says, sure. Okay, let's go for it. This is Representative Joe Alfieri this morning in House State Affairs Committee. Let's watch this.
RS proposes that we require cities with populations greater than 25,000 conduct district-wide elections for city council elections. As you may know, Idaho Code 50-707A requires district-wide elections for cities of over 100,000. So this would move that number down to 25,000. It would affect 10 cities. Cities are Caldwell, Idaho Falls, Pocatello, Coeur d'Alene, Twin Falls, Post Falls, Rexburg, Lewiston, Eagle, Kuna, and Moscow. And the purpose behind the legislation is very simple. It allows for really direct local representation of its citizens, which I think we don't currently have when you have a city, for example, my city, Coeur d'Alene, population of 57,000. We have council members, and nobody knows who to call if there's an issue with the sewer. Who to complain to? Which of the 6 council members or 5 council members do I talk to? 5 or 6 council members do I talk to? I think this This increases localized accountability. Some of the other benefits are that it will lower campaign costs for those who choose to run for elections, which should increase citizen engagement because you no longer have to do a mailing for, again, using Coeur d'Alene, 57,000. You would have to do it for perhaps 10,000. So more people would participate. Again, it enhances voter access to local elected officials. So I would ask for introduction.
Yeah, let's, if we have Brian Allman with us, I think he's here with us this morning. Brian, good to see you, friend. We have this bill here that would dramatically affect elections across a lot more cities. I mean, he listed off some there, but you have a handy graphic to kind of explain this. Currently, those are the 3 cities that have six districts with those populations, and this would affect the rest of the cities here, right, Brian?
That's right. I remember, I think it was Senator Josh Cole brought a very similar bill to this last year, and it went, I don't remember how far it got, but it got part of the way and didn't go all the rest of the way. Folks, of course, have some concerns about the overhead of drawing these districts and implementing them and educating voters. But at the same time, I'm looking at my own city of Eagle, which is on that list. We have between 30 and 40,000, depending on which source you go to, which means, we don't currently have districts. Yeah, I just shared that. And that's the, that's the city limits map here in Ada County. And as you can see, Eagle has gotten big. The annexation of the Avamore area brought it up into both Gem and Boise counties, which means as those areas grow, as Representative Alfieri said, it's going to be harder for the people in those areas to find representation because the population center is still going to be down here, in the old downtown area. So you can have a situation where your council members, 4, 5, 6 of them, we have 4 in Eagle, are, they're all neighbors. That's not necessarily the case, but it's possible. Whereas you get big enough and, well, it's good to have some geographical diversity on the council so different communities get represented. The question is, and the question before the committee when this bill comes back for a hearing is that what's the threshold? Right now it's 100,000. The state of Idaho says if you're over 100,000 people, you've got to have districts. This would make it 25,000. This would include a lot more cities.
Yes, it would. And I'm just kind of looking at this entire list here, and I know, I'm more familiar with the layout and the makeup of like the Coeur d'Alene City Council, the Post Falls City Council, because they're up here in North Idaho. And I know at least in Coeur d'Alene, sometimes you tend to have city council members that all live in one neighborhood, one part of the city. And they have all of the sway or whatnot, and you can't really get anybody else elected. I remember there was just an election in Coeur d'Alene where one of the candidates, a losing candidate, unfortunately, that was his whole thing. Like, our part of the city is not represented in the city council. And so we kind of feel like we're left out. There's nobody representing the people out here. And so this would make it so, I guess, according to the district lines there. I don't know, Brian. I don't think this makes anything more cumbersome for the voter. If anything, it makes it easier. I mean, part of the argument that Representative Alfieri gave was like, now you know who exactly represents your spot, your area of the city. And I've been to most of these cities, and they're all pretty. They're not giant like Boise, but at the same time, they are sprawling enough where you certainly don't want to be heavy-handed in one area or not.
That's true. And having worked on a Boise City Council race last fall, just for one of the 6 districts, I couldn't imagine running a citywide race. I mean, obviously it's done. The mayor does that, but it's definitely a much bigger endeavor. Whereas if you're only running in your own district, it's easier to knock on more doors, connect with more people. And then once you're on the council, assuming you win, then yeah, it's easier to represent your neighborhoods because it's a much smaller group. And I think more, smaller representation is usually a good thing. We have more representation, for example, in the legislature, where each legislator represents 52,000 odd people than we do in the U.S. Congress, where each of our 2 congressmen represent 1 million people. That's just numbers. That's just the way it is. Another thing, you mentioned confusion for voters. It would actually be more straightforward. Here in Eagle, we have 4 council members, and they don't actually have seats, which means every 2 years on the ballot, there's 2 of them up for re-election, and we have a whole list of people, and we vote for 2. It is a little bit confusing. In other cities, they do have seats where, you'll have 2 people running for seat 1, 2 people running for seat 2, 3 for seat 3, etc. But they're still not districted, which means they're still running campaigns across the entire city.
Yeah, and that can be confusing, especially when you're living in a school district that is chopped up by zone, or I even think maybe I think counties are also county-wide for those seats, but there are
counties, at least here in Ada County. I assume it's the same. There's 3 commissioners, and they are districted, but for the voters, they're not, which makes it even more confusing because each of the 3 have to live in the district they're running for, but the ballots go state or county-wide. So
right.
We have 2 commissioners on the ballot every 2 years. It doesn't matter which district they're in. And then highway district has its own districts. And these aren't neat either. There's a section of my precinct, my legislative precinct, that has Boise School District. And it makes no sense. It's just, crosses the main road into one little part of a neighborhood that's Boise School District, and the rest is all West Ada. So knowing what district you're actually in for school, for highway, for city, for council, for everything else is already pretty confusing. We should try and make it a little simpler for folks.
Yeah, I think so too. And I do remember it was run last year, and I think it was trying to get to that threshold of 25,000. And I think I heard some people say, well, why don't we try 50,000 first? So maybe half that list gets through, but no, they're going to go for the whole enchilada and go for 25 again. So we'll see how it goes. I know there was also talk, Brian, and I don't think we've seen it yet, but of partisan races, like making these city councils, making all of the down ballot races partisan races, so that we know exactly if you're going to be running as a Republican or a Democrat, Libertarian, whatever the parties are. That we go to partisan races too. So if that's the case, then are we looking at primary races as well? I mean, I think that's kind of how it would go. You'd also have a primary race in districts, and I don't know. Is that going to be more confusing, or is it just going to streamline everything?
I think if we went entirely partisan, it would be less confusing because then everything would be the same. Right now, you have some races are partisan, some aren't. I remember one of our city council members down here in Eagle, we used to be on the Ada County Highway District, and she lost her reelection. And it turned out that 10,000 voters just didn't bother voting in that race. They voted for the Republicans in all the other Ada County races. It's completely Republican right now, but they 10,000 people out of a couple tens of thousand who cast votes simply didn't turn the page and go down to the nonpartisan races because they really didn't know. They'll check all the R's, and I'm sure there's a handful that check all the D's, but there's those nonpartisan races are confusing. I do know that Senator Lori Dinh Hartog introduced a bill to make highway district races partisan just a few days ago, a repeat of a bill that came in at the very end of last session. I've heard talk of making all the other races nonpartisan as well, but I haven't seen any specific legislation yet.
Great. Okay. Let's see what they're working on here. Let's listen in.
This will have about a $5 million impact to our local community and is an outstanding example of private business and education cooperation. It's all free admission, and I'd love to see some of you there. Thank you.
They're doing announcements.
31.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the first floor in the rotunda, the Idaho.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like they're doing announcements. They're going to be ready to adjourn here for the day. We were Brian. We wanted to be sure to catch House Joint Memorial 12, which deals with Utah's with Utah's hostile action. The hostile action from the Utah folks as they try to reduce their gas tax and then implement an export tax on their oil to Idaho, which would then essentially raise our gas prices. So maybe they'll lead with that tomorrow.
Well, it's been sitting there on the third reading calendar for quite a while. So I'm wondering if they're just leaving it there, watching what Utah does and waiting to see what they do. And if they take some hostile action, then maybe they'll bring it up and vote for it on the floor. It's kind of like just holding it in reserve, depending on what Utah does.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it doesn't really have any action other than just, making a statement. So I guess we'll find out. And then over in the Senate, I guess we can check on to see what's going on over in the Senate. We'll let the guys figure that out as we pivot now. Let's go to another bill that was presented yesterday by Clint Hostetler. This had to do with not cloud seeding because they made that point. It is geoengineering. What's going on in the skies? We'll let Clint Hostetler present his bill.
Clint Hostetler, representative for District 24, and that's Twin Falls, Rural, Camas, and Gooding counties. I bring before you today RS 33167C1, and I'll try to be as brief as possible, not as brief as Representative Vanderwoude, because I think it's important to give an overview and some context of this. There's a lot of conflation and some confusion and on this topic in general. So I just want to give a little bit of a background to that before I touch on the details of the RS and hopefully get that hearing if you're gracious enough to grant one. But the issue at hand really is a bipartisan one in nature, and it affects us all, left, right, rich, poor, and all in between. Simply put, this memorial urges Congress to prohibit unauthorized geoengineering activities over Idaho, primarily solar geoengineering. And we all know weather and climate modification are receiving increased public attention as extreme weather events become more common. And while geoengineering may seem new, efforts to influence the weather and climate have been underway for decades. And actually, as we have it right now, 3/4 of our states here in the United States have deemed it important enough to propose and pass legislation addressing this very serious issue. So what is geoengineering? It's a progressive climate change mitigation technology and the deliberate and large-scale manipulation of an environmental process that affects the Earth's climate in an attempt to counteract the effects of global warming. So there are many forms of geoengineering, but at the heart of this memorial and solar geoengineering are in general SRM and SAI. So what is SRM? That is solar radiation modification, and that refers once again to a deliberate large-scale action intended to decrease the global average surface temperatures by increasing the reflection of sunlight away from the Earth, also known as dimming the sun. The most prominent form of SRM is known as SAI, or stratospheric aerosol injection, which calls for the injecting of tiny particles into the stratosphere, for example, by airplanes or balloons. And these particles essentially scatter, and the idea is that they reflect sunlight back out into space. Such programs are proposed actually and outlined not only in the Biden administration 2023 document titled White House Congressionally Mandated Research Plan and Initial Research Governance Framework for related to solar radiation modification, not only in this document, but countless other academic and private fundraising initiatives. And in this White House report, it acknowledges that the U.S. government is funding and coordinating SRM research activities and describes the government's collaboration with other governments and global organizations, including the United Nations World Meteorological Organization. These partnerships lack public consent and oversight. And just to point something out really quickly, on page 15 of this document, and perhaps one of the most frightening declarations of this process is the following, as it quotes in this federally mandated research program. It says, "A variety of unintended outcomes of SRM are not well understood, and there may be others which we are not aware. The known unknowns include potential changes in precipitation patterns, stratospheric temperatures, ozone amounts, sea level rise, patterns of climate variability, ocean acidification, productivity and mixing, terrestrial vegetation, coral reefs, biodiversity, crop production, and ecosystems. Model simulations show that the chemistry of the stratosphere may change and atmospheric circulations may intensify in ways that may lead to seasonal scale impacts such as more frequent extreme droughts or precipitation events, Additionally, the private sector has shown large investment increases in geoengineering. A Bloomberg article from April 10th of last year cites why money is flowing into geoengineering. The article cautions, is geoengineering a dangerous notion whose time has come? Scientists and entrepreneurs are testing radical ideas like solar radiation management and ocean fertilization and finding funding for it. Another article from the Politico titled "The Strange and Totally Real Plan to Blot Out the Sun and Reverse Global Warming" goes on to say a 25-person startup is developing technology to block the sun and turn down the planet's thermostat. The stakes are huge, and the company and its critics say regulations need to catch up. It is even documented by the PNAS.org, an online scientific journal, that over the years of 2008 to 2018, Bill Gates has funded 12% of global solar geoengineering research. And I'm wrapping it up here, and thank you for your grace and patience on this. I could go on. There's countless documents, reports, white pages, articles, etc. The plans are described and laid out. Again, it is important to note that 38 out of our 50 states have proposed or passed legislation addressing it. So this memorial acknowledges that currently Idaho has no statute to prohibit geoengineering from taking place in our airspace, but it is an important step in asserting Idaho's state sovereignty and protecting Idahoans' health, air, water, soil, and industry. These rights have never been granted to our federal government, and the 10th Amendment demands we take action and initiative. So this memorial sends the message that as Idahoans, we are concerned with the health and environmental impacts, that we are taking this issue seriously, and that any unauthorized experimentation needs to be prohibited at the national level. And with that, I would ask
Brian,
for...
they did go ahead and print this bill. There was a question in here. We'll get to it in a moment, though. But, it's interesting because, and we did a poll over the summer, too, of like, what were some of people's biggest concerns. And, when you look up in the sky and you see, you see the remnants of, when planes pass over and all of a sudden a clear day becomes a hazy day, you always tend to wonder what is going on, why do some contrails disappear immediately after? So there's all these questions. There's a lot of stuff out there, documentaries and things on the internet and all sorts of different programs. Plus, there is actual cloud seeding that goes on. It's been going on forever. And we have a comment about that coming up here in a second, though. But this is one of those issues that I think needs transparency.
I agree on the transparency. I'm a little more skeptical than some on some of the claims that have been made about what is going on with geoengineering, cloud seeding, chemtrails, all those things. However, transparency would be great because weather and climate and all those things are very complex systems. What goes on, at each level of our atmosphere, the moisture in the air, the different gases in the air, the different chemicals in the air, and how that interacts with man-made things, whether just incidentally, like airplanes flying through the sky, or things that are deliberately done, like Representative Hostetler was talking about, all these ideas to, put particles in the sky to block out the sun, to stop global warming. I definitely worry about stuff like that. I don't want to see anything like that going on. So it's a very complex and confusing issue. I would like to see some transparency and know exactly which government agency is doing what and why, and what are the effects.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So to voice one of those concerns there, Representative Rod Furness asked Hostetler specifically about cloud seeding. So let's watch that.
A motion, Representative Furness.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Welcome to the committee.
Thank you, sir.
Does this also include cloud seeding for irrigation purposes?
Representative Hostetler.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Furness, no, it does not. This is specifically referring to solar geoengineering, i.e. SRM SAI.
Just to follow up.
Certainly.
Just want to make sure that we get on the record that this bill does not affect cloud seeding for farmers. Currently, they get over 1,240,000 acre feet of water from cloud seeding. It's about 15% of the snowpack. And in a dry year, that would be significant. Also, cloud seeding in Idaho is one of the cheapest sources of water. It's $3.50 an acre foot versus $20 to $40 an acre foot. And that's about a $21 million spend. So I want to make sure again that this bill does not affect farmer cloud seeding in Idaho.
Representative Hostetler.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, we could use some of that water this year, and no, this does not affect it, the cloud seeding, solar geoengineering primarily.
Okay. Another finer point on it, does not affect the cloud seeding. My question, though, about the cloud seeding is, we've had, up here in North Idaho, we've had maybe like 3 days of snow. So I don't know if the cloud seeding is actually working. And I know that the state right now is a little bit worried about, getting through the rest of winter here. We're still technically in winter, and there hasn't been a huge snowpack, if any, for the state to rely on for the rest of the year. So where's the cloud seeding happening?
Well, that's another complex thing that I don't fully understand. So I don't want to start spouting off on it. You hear folks on one side who suggest that cloud seeding is just this worst thing ever. That's killing us all, putting chemicals into the air. But then kind of what Representative Furness was saying there. You have farmers who. The sense is that they rely on this technology to make sure that they do have enough water for the volume that they're growing. So again, it's something we need more information on. We need more transparency on. We need more understanding.
Yeah, we do. And I know Senator Nichols over on the Senate side is running bills to try and get that transparency out there so that people have the knowledge moving forward. So, okay, well, let's take a break here. We're at the top of the hour. We're going to come back. We expect to have Representative Rob Beiswinger join us in a little bit, but we still have a couple other things to get through here with Almond. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's our job to maintain the proper role of government and what we were tasked to do.
Idaho is the dirt under your fingernails after an honest day's work. Idaho is the hug around your neck when your daughter spells her first word. Idaho is the written word of the law, steadfast and impartial, guarding liberty for all. Idaho is the family rifle passed down, a legacy of protection and the right to stand firm. Idaho is the echo of your own voice, unshaken and free, standing tall among the world's silenced. Idaho is the home that's built to weather storms, not empty wallets. Idaho is the quiet trust between a patient and healer, unbroken and sacred. Idaho is the hymn carried by the Spirit, gathering neighbors together in faith and purpose. Idaho is the laughter around a campfire, a family's bond growing stronger with every word. Idaho is the pioneer's will, firm and clear. We govern ourselves, free and unbound. Idaho is what America was. Let's keep it that way. Ask your legislator to sign the Citizens Alliance of Idaho pledge to preserve our shared values. We ride together.
Yes, folks, this coming Thursday, I'll be at the Capitol with a couple of colleagues of mine. We'll be at the Capitol Clarity event inside the Capitol at 12 noon. We expect to be in the Lincoln Auditorium to talk about Doors Win Wars. That's door knocking. That's how to get your message out there, how to do effective campaigning. You do it through door knocking. It is. We're going to show you some of the numbers that prove our point, and you'll get a chance to answer questions from actual door knockers themselves and myself as well. So we look forward to having you come out and join us. Big thanks, big shout out to Idaho Freedom Foundation for letting us grab one of their Capitol Clarity days. Very good, very excellent. If you have questions outside of that event, give us a call. 208-402-4915 is the number to leave your message, a voicemail, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, whatever you got in you. We'll play it over the air, and we'll share it with the masses. The masses. Yeah, folks, check this out. American Smoke Company, AmericanSmokeCo.com. I'm reaching back here. Let me grab this one. This one's almost empty. You guys, this one's almost empty. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to order more of this one because it's really good. This is I just love the smell of this. I mean, it just smells like you're outside smoking food, man. I mean, you got the salt, Pacific Ocean sea salt. It's a very coarse grain, very coarse, and it has a wonderful aroma. And you need to put it on your meats and your eggs and your veggies. I might even put it on like some cookies, baking some cookies, and you put a little chocolate chip cookies and put some of this smoked salt on there. You feel like you're at a campfire, man. S'mores, maybe put it on some s'mores. I don't know. AmericanSmokeCo.com. Great sponsors over there. Great friends. Excellent. All right. Let's bring Brian back in here. Brian, I'll bring it down a stash. If I come down to the Cap, if I remember, I'll try and bring you a stash. But we have to talk about Senator Christy Zito brought it's in the realm of the Second Amendment. It's dealing with your right to self-defense. But let's watch her present this bill here. This was, I believe, yesterday, or was it yesterday? I think it was in Senate State Affairs. Let's check this out.
Today to present to you RS 32969. This proposed piece of legislation is about one core principle, and that is if a law-abiding citizen lawfully defends their life, their family, or their home under Idaho law, they should not be financially ruined. Think of this law as the Second Amendment version of an anti-SLAPP law. Anti-SLAPP laws give a defendant sued for exercising their First Amendment right an opportunity for an early determination of that defense to prevent the process from becoming the punishment. This legislation does not expand on when force may be used. Those standards already exist in Idaho Code. This bill does two things. It puts teeth in the concept of presumed innocent, so that if you are innocent, your life is not ruined by mere allegations. You are made whole for exercising a constitutional right as a defense to a criminal charge. It provides early procedural protection for citizens who are defending their lives and the lives of their families. Currently, Idaho self-defense can only be raised at a trial. A person may be arrested, charged, forced to hire counsel, and endure months or years of litigation before a jury ultimately acquits them. Even if they are completely vindicated, they may lose their savings, their jobs, and their reputation. RS 32969 creates a structural pretrial immunity hearing. If a defendant presents prima facie evidence that their actions were justified under Idaho law, the state must then demonstrate that sufficient evidence exists to show that the claim is disputed. This is similar to the civil procedure of a summary judgment. If there are no disputed facts, then the defendant is entitled to acquittal as a matter of law that can happen by having the case dismissed early. This is not a radical idea. The state of Florida and other states, including Texas, have similar frameworks. Idaho courts already recognize that once self-defense is properly raised, the burden is on the state to disprove it beyond a reasonable doubt. This bill simply moves the evidentiary hearing earlier in the process to prevent injustice. Full trials on self-defense claims would be financially ruinous for most Idaho families, the majority of which would not qualify for a public defender. The best defense when your life and liberty are at stake should not be available only to the rich. This bill also addresses reimbursement. If the state prosecutes a case and the individual is found not guilty on the grounds of lawful self-defense, that person may seek reimbursement of reasonable costs. If we believe someone acted lawfully, we should not expect them to shoulder the financial burden of proving their innocence. This law would not reward someone who obtained a not guilty verdict based on failure of proof, meaning the prosecution failed to prove its case. Only if the fact finder makes finding that the defendant was exercising his or her right to self-defense under the Second Amendment. Some have raised concern regarding fiscal impact and arrest authority. Those are valid questions, but consider this. The charging decision made by the district attorney has the checks and balances of probable cause hearing and grand jury findings. Shouldn't a defendant have their own probable cause hearing if they can plausibly raise self-defense to a charge of criminal violence? This bill does nothing more than introduce judicial branch balance to the process when a defendant comes forth with credible defense justification. The goal here is balance, protecting the constitutional self-defense rights while preserving the state's ability to prosecute unlawful violence. This bill does not protect criminals. It protects those who are ultimately determined to have acted lawfully under Idaho's existing self-defense statute and provides an early determination so that both parties can assess whether full, costly, risky jury trial is necessary to ensure justice. At its heart, this legislation affirms that when Idahoans act within the law to defend themselves, their families, or their homes, the law should stand with them and not against them. I respectfully ask for your support.
Well, she got the support. The bill did get printed. It's now Senate Bill 1298 for those of you who are interested in diving into this. It sounded like at the beginning a very simple issue, Brian, but as you noted while we were discussing this earlier, there does seem to be a little bit of nuance between whether you're found not guilty or whether this is like the SLAPP legislation, something that can get dismissed right off the bat.
Right. It sounds like this is, directed toward more that pre-trial side that Senator Zito was talking about. Obviously the first thing that comes to my mind and a lot of people's minds when we talk about people who are engaged in self-defense facing persecution by the state is Kyle Rittenhouse, who was obviously out in the streets when he was accosted and, shot 3 people. And the prosecutors there went after him hard and heavy. I think they were trying to make an example of somebody during those Floyd riots. And of course, a jury acquitted him. It sounds like in this case, this law would not apply to that because it was a jury trial. Whereas if somebody is, say, in their home, somebody invades, there's a shooting, the invader is killed. If they then have to hire a lawyer to make sure that the prosecutor knows that this was self-defense, then they could get reimbursed for those costs. So like Senator Zito said, it doesn't become a case where the process is the punishment and they're out tens of thousands of dollars when they did nothing wrong.
Yeah, I can't imagine, this applying to something like, for instance, the Rittenhouse case where the state is now going to be on the hook to reimburse, maybe upwards of $1 million. I mean, I don't know how much he had to spend on that case, but I mean, that's not what this is for. It's specifically for those early pretrial things, motions and the assessing of whether or not this thing needs to go to trial or not. And so I think it's a good bill to, just based on that explanation. So again, Senate Bill 1298. We will keep tabs on that as it makes its way through the Senate and hopefully over to the House. We know that the House adjourned, the Senate adjourned. They're done for the day. That happened a little bit earlier, and we do expect to hopefully have Representative Rob Beiswinger with us. So before he gets here, let's play a presentation of the bill that he presented earlier this month that we hope is going to get a hearing in the House Health and Welfare Committee very soon. This is dealing with the vaccine status of our children. Let's take a listen.
RS 33132, the expanded medical freedom bill. This kind of expands what we did last year. This one goes through some areas which weren't really covered as well. A few things we want to go through. It talks about the school and daycare language. It clarifies that, where currently, basically the way the law is written, it says you're required to get vaccinated to go, but then you can exempt yourself for pretty much any reason. So we're going to clarify that and now just say, well, it's voluntary, because some people are getting mixed messages. They say, well, it's required. Then like, well, yeah, but the section below it says it's not. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of clean that up for everybody. And for regarding schools and daycares. Section 5, which starts on page 2, talks about the immunization registry. Again, it's going to go with regards to that. Basically, we passed the medical freedom law last year. This is going to go and clean up that language, talk about how it's going to be voluntary. People can opt in if they want to, but they won't be required. It also deals with local preemption, so make sure there's no local preemption of the Medical Freedom Act that was passed last year. So you want the city or counties trying to undo it. On page 5, in the section of the Medical Freedom Act, it deals with some travel exceptions there in regards to how employers do that. Actually, we kind of felt like maybe went too far a little bit there. So this will make it so that employers won't be penalized for it. They'll have the option to use a different employee for international travel if they're required to take a medication or vaccination as a condition of journeying to a separate country there. So you see that as kind of the top of page 5. And then, let's see here. I think that was think that basically covers it here, but yeah,
That
so we're kind
covered it.
redoing-
Representative Rob Beiswinger joins us now live. That video, we had to do a still shot because when you presented it, Idaho Public Television had a different image on the screen the entire time. So at least we were allowed, we let people see who was speaking. But now you're here with us live. Good to see you, Rob.
Likewise, thanks for having me.
So you presented this bill at the beginning of the month. It's been a couple of weeks now since this went through committee, and we wanted to talk about this because there's been a lot of chatter even across the country. People are looking at Idaho right now because of what you guys did last session with the overall Idaho Medical Freedom Act. That was, of course, at first vetoed by the governor. You guys, scrambled at the last minute to get another bill through that was finally signed, and now here we are again. Refining medical freedom in Idaho. What can you tell me about this bill here, in essence, to the overall direction that Idaho's going?
Yeah, the Epoch Times quoted me and they asked for a comment article they're doing. Talk about looks about 15 other states are introducing some kind of medical freedom act. Utah, Arizona, even Hawaii, New York, or not some of these states are going to pass them. But it's on the march now. This is now something that nobody really did before we got done last year. And just to kind of, I was talking actually to a state rep in the hallway, and he's like, that battle we had last year was epic. I showed him the news article. I was like, that was an epic fight here. And really, we passed the medical freedom bill 3 separate times, essentially the same bill 3 times. The governor vetoed it on the final attempt, the final day. The last bill of the session was signed, by Governor Little, the Medical Freedom Act. So, but immediately, as you go through these things, you realize that there's some areas this didn't apply to. It's hard to cover every area of law, with one bill. So in the draft, we call it the expansion or medical freedom expansion bill here. The big parts is going to talk about schools and daycares. And the reason I think last year it didn't get on there because, you have this requirement language to attend school or daycare to use vaccination. But over the years, that's kind of been whittled away. You can exempt out of the vaccine requirements if you have a religious objection or a medical exemption or philosophical. So you have what are considered the 3, exemptions possible. Pretty much any reason you can choose to opt out. And same thing with daycare. It's the same kind of language there too. And even before I got in office, I was reading through them like, why do we say it this way? Why do we say you're required, but then almost like not really? You're required, but then you can opt out for pretty much any reason. So we're in this kind of weird debate with people. It's like, well, it's already voluntary. I'm like, okay. I want to be very clear in the language though. Like, let's not tell people and code is required if it's not, right? Let's not play a game here. Let's not do any of that kind of stuff, right? Let's just say it's, you do not have to get vaccinated to go to school. Let's just be honest about it.
And it's more, isn't it even more so just being vaccinated? It's just revealing your status, right? You can still be vaccinated against some things, but not have to disclose it, right?
Yeah, we're basically just saying, to schools. Schools really shouldn't be in the medication business. If you ask me, they shouldn't be in the vaccine business here. These are private, personal decisions. I could kind of argue these probably violate HIPAA laws for asking people for their medical records, quite frankly. And, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm not here to stop people from getting, a flu shot or MMR shot or what have you. It's not really, that's not what I'm here for. I'm here just to say, hey, look, the government should be pushing you one way or another. And, one of the things that RFK Jr. talks about quite a bit in his MAHA kind of movement is that, look, we definitely lost a lot of trust with the medical system for the past, 10 years, COVID and the transgender kind of stuff. Really, like that trust has been broken. And you don't repair trust by forcing people into taking your products, right? You build trust by having discussions and, talking about it and back and forth, that kind of stuff, just like you would any other kind of product or service here. So, you kind of boil it down. We need, as RFK Jr. says, we need good science and we need choices on this stuff. We shouldn't be requiring people. And so this really, for this part of the code, is really just, almost cleaning up the language, just making it more transparent. And people are, we already know it's voluntary. Well, then what's your problem with my bill? Because that's all I'm saying here. I'm just not taking 3 paragraphs to say it. I'm going to say it in 1 sentence that it's not required.
Well, what you're removing, Rob, is the fear factor, right? I mean, I've seen it time and again where people will say, this is the letter I got from my daycare, or this is the letter I got from my school. And it says, we are required to do this. And we cannot let you go forward unless you submit this paperwork, unless you submit the status. And then it's like, or you've seen letters go out that say, or you can fill out an exemption, but sometimes they don't say the exemption part, and you've had to pass law that says you have to make sure you say that they can be exempt for any reason. So what you're doing here is two things. One, of course, you're trying to make the law very clear that it's not a mandate that you tell anybody what your vaccine status is. And number two, you're removing the fear. That's all it comes down to. They love control, and they love to control by fear.
Yeah, I mean, that's it, right? It's the fear that the sky is going to fall, the sky or whatever, or, whatever's going to come out of the sky is going to happen, and we're all going to be toast here if we don't do this. And the thing is, like, we're trying to respect the rights of people on both sides. If you want, you go get a shot, go get it. If you don't, you don't. And like, people can understand the choices. They can talk to their doctor about it. They can research it online. There's so much information out there that people can do this, so, and I mean, some doctors even want to argue to you, it's healthy for you to get, certain diseases and fight them off. There are certain benefits to fighting off diseases. So, and we're just trying to put that choice back in the hands of people to do it and not have it be there for coercion and that kind of stuff. But definitely the fear factor is huge right now. And just, you see it. I mean, there was an article out there in the, online, it was saying that if we don't force kids to get vaccinated, then they're not even going to bother going to the doctor anymore, right? That's so if we don't do this, like, they just won't even see a doctor anymore. As if, well, I don't know what kind of craziness that is. I mean, people go to doctors for the annual checkups and all the time, whether they're getting a vaccine or not, I assume. And so, yeah, we're just restraining this here. Now, a couple of other facets of the bill you covered there a little bit there. This one, the current bill would also apply towards, medical professionals, healthcare, professionals, to which the Medical Freedom Act didn't cover. And the trick with that one, though, is CMS, what Dr. Oz is in charge of under HHS down in DC, because they're paying all this money out through Medicare and Medicaid, they're the ones who really kind of get to decide what happens there. And there's two Supreme Court cases which say basically CMS can decide what the vaccine requirements are there, but our bill will at least remove Idaho from that decision. The Idaho policy would be you don't have to do it, but it wouldn't really be resolved for them until we can get some help back federally as for how that would play out.
Right. I see. Okay. All right. So, the big headline here again also is that this would be the first in the nation to have this.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anyone who's done what we've done on this level either. Obviously, last year was a big, segue here, but now this one I think would be also in terms of just we're going to remove the requirements from. I mean, everyone does that. It's just, here's the rules for school and daycare. Here's your opt-ins and opt-outs. Here's what permissions you can. No one that I'm aware of has done it quite like we are. There is a bill in New Hampshire that would basically do the same thing on the school level there. And they have very minimal requirements on vaccines. Like overall, it's really small there. It's kind of, but they're trying it too.
Did and I could be completely wrong here, but it wouldn't surprise me if California did this. Did California do something where they said even if you're homeschooling, you had to submit vaccination records? I feel like that's something California would have done.
I mean, you're probably right. If I'd probably wager $25 on it, but
yeah,
I guess I don't really know that they did that, but it wouldn't surprise me.
All right.
They're all about control out there for sure.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Good. All right. So do you have a date on when this hearing might be? Because I know this is something that we would definitely want to rally folks who believe in this cause to show up. Do you have any sense of when you might get a hearing?
I mean, I think the chairman's open to it. I think we're just kind of getting our support in line. We went through rules today on health and welfare, so other things have just kind of clogged it up at this point. Definitely trying to make sure, line up all the votes and stuff, get around. So yeah, I don't have a date, penciled in at this point, but I don't think it'll be much longer. I think we get this moving. I think a lot of people still want this. They want to finish the job from last year. And I mean, the issue I think is wildly, popular, politically. I think people are going to want to, have their name on it for the most part. And, it's election year, so, it kind of cuts both ways, but I think people are going to want to be in support of things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rob, Representative, where can people follow you and keep tabs and give you support if they need some testimonies for you?
I think I lost my audio here.
Oh, We can still hear you. We'll send people to How about we send people to idahoforrob.com. We'll send people there, and we'll check in with Rob Beiswinger next time. All right, that's it. Thanks again. All right, send him a message in the chat there. See if he's all right. Brian Allman, I don't want to leave you hanging out there, my friend. Where can people follow you and follow your stuff and keep tabs on what you're working on next?
X.com at Brian Allman, as always. That's where I post most stuff. And, the Gem State Chronicle account, I've moved some of my live tweet threads there. So, but I'll still retweet them from my personal account as well. GemStateChronicle.com. I try to bring at least 3 to 5 articles a week, covering random things from political philosophy to specific bills that are going through the process. And, if you need information about your legislators, it's the place to go.
Fantastic. Thank you again, sir. We will check in with you for Wednesday show. All right, that's it, guys. We got through the day. I do want to let you know that later today, there's going to be some good stuff happening in the committees. I know we tried out this thing. We were like going to go through the committees and see what was going on, but I don't know. I just didn't feel like that was a good use of our on-screen time. We're only with you here for an hour. And we'd love to see more of your voice and what you're saying. So please give us a call, send us an email. You can do that at 208-402-4915. That is the number to call. And if you're out and about and you don't want to use up too much of your data listening to the program, head over to idahosignal.live. so that you can listen in and enjoy the program as it loops over again. And of course, this Thursday, last reminder for tomorrow's show. That's this Thursday. We'll be at the Idaho Capitol down there in Boise. Special thanks, shout out to Idaho Freedom Foundation for allowing us to take over one of their Capitol Clarity events, talking about Doors Win Wars. That's 12 p.m. on Thursday. It'll be good to see you folks there. All right, that's it for now. I'm Matt Edwards. It's Tuesday. We'll see you on Wednesday, and we'll let Forever Idaho take us out.
Church bells ring through the valley air. Rodeo lights, what a life we share. Esto perpetuate, forever we'll sing. God, land, and family. To mountains high, America's heart beats red, white, and blue. 250 years of me and you, yeah. Lift it up loud. Idaho proud, American true. Idaho proud. Red, white, blue. Red, white, blue.
I think it puts a stake in the ground that says we have a sovereign right to protect what's ours.